This episode of the All Automotive Podcast is brought to you by our friends at GeForce Automotive. GeForce Automotive is a certified service center through Auto Value. Want to make an appointment? Go to their website at www.geforceautomotive.net. Click on the banner that says Make an Appointment and make your appointment today. And now, the next episode of the All Automotive Podcast. All right, welcome back to another episode of the All Automotive Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Clausen, and today we're talking about estimates. When you take your car in for work and the shop calls you and gives you an estimate, how does that process work? Well, I can tell you how the process works at our facility because we instill it and there's rules that we have to follow. So in the next half hour, I want to give you some sort of an idea on what to do when you get this estimate, what to do if you don't like it, what to do if you think it's okay, and what kind of decisions that are involved with where we're coming from so that you can relate it to, is it worth it for this vehicle? Is it something that I need to do right now, or that kind of stuff? So sit back, relax, and I'm going to tell you my side of the story as it relates to giving you estimates on your vehicle. Okay, so, you bring your car in for work, and we've all done it. I've done it. Everyone else does. I own a shop, so it's I've done it a long time ago, but, there's certain things that we have to do in order to provide a good service for you. And one of those is giving you an estimate on your vehicle. And number one, being fair and upfront and transparent as far as what's going on with your vehicle. Now, many shops that you go to, and mine included, it's not that we're actually looking for things to do and sell. It's a matter of we give you the opportunity to see all the things that are going on with your car. And if that's something that you question, there's ways to get around that, and there's ways to prove out what's going on. So you bring your car in for work and you say, hey, Matt, the check engine light's coming on, and I've got this clunk and stuff when I go over bumps, and it's especially noisy when I turn to the left. It makes this huge grinding noise, but I also got this clunk. So now as a service advisor or a service person on the other end of this counter, we have to, decipher all these things that you're saying to us. The check engine light thing is pretty simple. It gives us, we've got a shortcut for that. We click on that and bam, that's on your repair order. And then the clunk and the grinding noise, there's two things possibly going on there. Might just be the same thing. We don't know that until we take a look at it. So keep that in mind if you've got a couple of different things, but always make sure that when you bring your car in, that you're telling us the complete story. A lot of times we get partial information, and that creates extra time and for us to figure out what's going on as far as phone calls and communication between me and the technician, let's say. And if there's downtime and there's holdups in what's going on when we don't have all the information, it's really important. And especially if in the case of any kind of diagnostics like the check engine light or the ABS light is on, or it stalls, or it doesn't run right. It's really important that you give us all the information when it comes to stuff like that. Like, well, I took it over to AutoZone, which is a popular thing, by the way, and they're telling me that this code is this part, and I changed that part, but the light is still on and it's still setting the same code. So again, if we don't know that information, we possibly could come to that conclusion that after we follow a flow chart and do our diagnostics, that same part we're calling is bad as well. But if we don't know that you've changed it, there's certain test procedures that we can do for most of these parts, and we've gotten bad parts before. It's not uncommon that we have a part that is failed or isn't any good right out of the box. And unfortunately, that's something that happens, and I can kind of get into that a little bit later if you want me to, and I probably will, just to let you know that it's not always a misdiagnosis on our part, but on our side. I mean, not the part actually, but there's parts that just aren't good, and unfortunately, that we have to uphold a standard for you and for everyone else, and we don't like to see you come back, and we don't like to have an issue like that, because the Google reviews and all the bad word of mouth and all that kind of stuff. I take that very seriously, and I would think that most repair facilities would as well. But okay, so getting back to my story with the check engine light and our clunking and our grinding. So I will decipher that as three different issues. I've got a clunking noise, and that's particularly where? Okay, well, it's in the front somewhere, but okay, so I'm going to be asking more probing questions, and don't get offended when we start asking questions about what and where and when it happens. We're just trying to gather information and make life easier for myself, the technician, and you, so that we're not driving your car all over town trying to figure out where this clunking noise is coming from, when you're telling us, and especially with that grinding noise where I was, I said it was mostly when I were turning to the left. So when you turn to the left, we put pressure on the right front, and we're turning really hard. So that could be something to do with the wheel revolution, wheel bearing, so forth. Okay, so we've got three different concerns. So again, don't get offended when we talk and try to gather more information from you. It's just we're trying to make things easier for ourselves. So, where's this clunk? Well, it's in the front. Okay, so we've checked that box. And does it sound like it's from the right front or the left front? Or can we tell that? Or did you hear it with the window down? Is it something that you heard in the drive-through? Or is it, when I come into my driveway, because I got this curb before I come into my driveway, I just hear this clank. Oh, it sounds like metal on metal. Okay, that helps. Any kind of descriptive things would always help. So I encourage you to come in with all the information and be prepared to answer a bunch of questions. And again, on the flip side of that, let's say that, okay, well, check engine light, rattle, grind. Okay. So in Michigan, we have to have you sign this repair order. So I would encourage you, and especially if you live in a state, Florida's one of them. I know there's a lot of other states, California's probably one as well, that require you to sign a piece of paper before you walk out that door. And this gives you the opportunity to say, oh, hey, you didn't write down the clunk here. I was talking about a clunk. So that gives you the opportunity to check those three boxes to say, hey, man, I'm complaining of three different things here. Or I've got three things here, and I was only complaining of two. Well, that's where I was saying, okay, well, we may have two different things going on. Suspension-wise might be your clunk, and then you may have something going on with a wheel bearing or something like that with your grinding noise when you turn. So I didn't want to get confused, but that's my opportunity to go over that with you as well. So before you just sign your life away, and, we have a diagnostic inspection charge as well as most shops would, I would assume. And we have to tell you that too. That's one of our rules in Michigan, and that's a rule in Florida, and that's a rule in North Carolina, and that's a rule in any state, I would think. But I just know, and I'm very familiar with, and most of my career is doing repairs in Michigan. So I'm going to talk intelligently about the state of Michigan and all the other states. I know particularly Florida. just simply because I know somebody that's from Florida and I talk to him quite frequently. And I do have a buddy that lives in Tennessee around the Nashville area. I'm not so sure that the rules are quite the same, but, most states require us as shop owners to provide a preliminary estimate about what it's going to take to check your car out. So at the end of that, signing your life away there, no, that's not it. At the end of signing the repair order, prior to us doing anything, you have a clear picture of, if I don't want any of this fixed, it's going to cost me X. So your car gets triaged to what we call it, and then we route it to a particular technician if it happens to be that way, or you're in line with everything else based on when you need your car back, how long it's going to take potentially, and what our workload is and what has carried over from the day before. So that being said, that's how your vehicle gets routed in through the shop. And, we've had some people come in and be like, well, I had an appointment at 9:30 and now it's 10:30 and you guys haven't looked at my car yet. Well, we try to explain to them that we've had carryover from the day before, or if it's something that you physically need back by a certain time, we route it and move it around. If you're going to sit in our waiting room and wait, that's a different story as well. So we gather all that information prior to that, and I would encourage you folks to do the same. If it's something that, I've got, 2 young kids and there's no way I'm going to sit in your waiting room because they're going to be running around all over the place, and which that's fine. If that happens, it's not something that we really like particularly because our waiting room is kind of small and it gets a little noisy. And, we do have work to do. You aren't our only customer, and that's something that you got to keep in mind as well. But if it's something that I don't have any kids at home, my kids are in college, I can sit here and wait. I have the day off. This is my only way because my wife is not able to pick me up or whatever. We always encourage the customers to drop their vehicles off because of the way we run our shop. And that's the way we do it. That's not the way some other places would do it. They'd probably be welcome to have you sit there for however long you want to sit there for. And I don't know. I'm different. I wouldn't want to sit there and watch and hover, but there are people that are like that, and that's fine. So we triage your car, and let's say we're just going to keep right along with our check engine light, our clunk, and our grinding noise. So I have technicians that can check all 3 of those and not have to go to 2 different places. And when I worked at the dealership, I had technicians like that as well that could address all 3 concerns. I had technicians that could not address the check engine light, whether that's not my forte, or I don't really like diagnostic work like that. But you know what? I can look at the suspension and that grinding noise, no problem, because I'm certified in steering and suspension. And that's one of the things too in Michigan, that we have to be certified technicians. I don't like to use the word mechanic, but a lot of people do. And our state of Michigan clarifies us as mechanics, and we all have mechanics license numbers, just like you would if you were a hairdresser or anything else that requires you to be licensed to do what you do. So, and I think in Michigan that kind of does add credibility to our field. And hey, if we're certified and we're ASE certified, Michigan recognizes ASE as a national testing body. Now, Automotive Service Excellence, or ASE, you see the signs. It looks like a gear and it says ASE certified technicians work here. And I'm an ASE master technician. Not to toot my own horn, but that's something that I achieved 25 years ago. Have kept that up ever since. So in Michigan, we have to be certified mechanics, and we also have to be a licensed repair facility. So remember my episode last month where I was talking about is your repair facility reputable? If you go in there and you can't find and we have to post these out where everybody's got to be able to see them, our mechanics certifications license and our facility license. It has to be posted in a common area so that the customers can see it. So if you go into a repair facility, especially in Michigan, and you do not see this repair facility license, that's kind of a red flag. And it's something where that doesn't normally happen. You don't normally see that, but I would think that if you're concerned about that repair facility, and we'll move on from this. I know you can listen to my last episode, and I go into a lot of different things in that one, but that's a big red flag right there, is if they're not a licensed repair facility. And that's something that we have to be in Michigan, is licensed as technicians and also as a repair facility. So again, and getting back to the diagnostic and getting to the estimate part of it. So we check this vehicle out. Check engine light ends up being a code for the mass airflow sensor. It's not working correctly. And the clunking noise is a stabilizer link is broken on the right front. And also the grinding noise is a wheel bearing that's bad on the right front as well. So we compile the estimate, get you estimates on parts and labor. And we have to be upfront and transparent with this in Michigan. And I would think that most other places in America would have to be like this as well, or any repair facility. Doesn't matter where you are. I would hope if you were in London or something, you'd want to know what it is, parts and labor, to fix it. Unless you have a great relationship with them and just say, hey, Matt, just whatever it takes, just go ahead and fix it. I understand that, it's going to be X, but, and, I take that. A lot of times, customers will come in and say that, but we still will call you no matter what to let you know what's going on. And you have those kind of customers, and that's great. And I appreciate every single one of my customers, whether they're Miss Difficult or Mr. Hard Nose. I don't have I appreciate all my customers and will until we close up shop. But so anyway, we will go with our compiling our estimate on the parts and the labor that it takes to do it. And then we call and let you know what's going on. Say, hey, John, got to the bottom of what's going on with your check engine light. It's got a code in there for the mass airflow sensor. Technician followed the flow chart. We find that the mass airflow sensor isn't reading correctly at times. Was it stalling or anything funny? Yeah, it was kind of stalling and not running right, and it kind of surged on me a little bit. Yeah, okay, that sensor tells the computer how much air is coming into the airbox or how much air is coming into the engine so that it can account for the fuel delivery. So that's that, and that's going to cost you this much. We found out what your clunk was, the broken stabilizer link on the right front. That's going to cost you this, and then the wheel bearing is bad on the right front. That's what's causing the grinding noise when you're turning to the left, because we're putting pressure on the right and it makes a little bit more noise when you're turning to the left, but it's on the right front. So this is that part of the estimate. So if you wanted to do all three things, it would be this. If I would say really none of this is something that you can wait on, but if it's a cost issue, you just let me know, because we may be able to get away with removing that broken part of the stabilizer link, and then so that's not clunking if cost is an issue. And at that point, you can make an educated decision on what you want to do. If you decide to skip any of those, any kind of suspension issue, or whether it's a strut or a ball joint or anything like that, anything that's loose is potentially a safety issue. The wheel bearing is obviously a safety issue because it could leave you on the side of the road. If it fails totally, your wheel's not going to come off, but it's going to be really loose, and your vehicle could wander going down the road. And then the stabilizer links helps keep the front end stabilized when you go through curves. There's a bar that goes between the two sides, and then that link is between the control arm and that bar, so that when that bar twists, it gives you, so you're not floating around like you are in a boat. So that adds stability to what you're doing. So all three of those things is something that you can't wait on. And you want to be able to get to the bottom of all three of those as far as what the severity of them is. And, well, we can't have our vehicle stalling, number one. And number two would be the wheel bearing. If anything would be skipped or overlooked or not done, would be the stabilizer link, because, well, You could probably get away with that, but I would be hesitant to tell you that you could get away with that. And as a matter of fact, I probably would just tell you if that's the least probably expensive one out of the three. So at that point, we would gain your authorization for what you would like us to fix first and go from there. If there's anything else that we see, oil leaks or brakes that need repair or something like that, at that point, I would shift gears and say, and while the technician was in there, we had to take the wheel off to inspect your wheel bearing. We noticed that your brakes were down to 20% life. They're not going to last you more than another month or so. We recommend doing front brake pads and rotors. Again, not something that needs to be done right now, but I wanted to bring it to your attention so that you had something to go by if, that presented itself in the future. So didn't see any oil leaks. I was just using that as a reference or anything like that. So the only other thing that we saw when we looked at this vehicle, let's just say, is the brakes. So at that point, do you want to come back? Do you not want to come back? Do you want to do that? It's just so you know. I'd want to know if my brakes were getting worn out and I had to come back in a couple of months. Maybe it's not convenient for me to be here and be without my car. And I think about myself, and you want to think about yourself too. Most people depend on their cars daily. And if it's already there and we can afford it, let's do it. Go ahead and do it, Matt. Just fix everything and do the brakes too. Okay, great. So when do you need it back? And then, be upfront. Tell us, if it's something is it something you can get done today or what are we looking at? Well, the wheel bearing takes a couple hours. While we're in there, we can put the stabilizer link on. The mass airflow sensor isn't really difficult. It's like an in and out. It's like changing your air filter most of the time. What else was there? The brakes. So we can get all that done and by the end of today. Absolutely. No problem. We'll move forward with that. So let's switch this around. Oh, well, man, that's a lot of money. I don't think that we'll be able to, we can afford any of that right at the moment. I'll have to talk things over with my significant other and, hey man, I'll get back to you. Okay, great. So if it's a no initially, okay, we'll put it back together. Just give us a call back a little bit later and let us know what's going on. Sometimes people can get back to us immediately, and sometimes it takes a little bit. It doesn't matter to us when you get back to us. It really doesn't. If it's going to take you, wife's at work, I can't talk to her until break. There's all kinds of different situations. It's fine. Go ahead and take that time as you need it. If you need to pick it up and bring it back, that's fine too. If you look at that and you go, well, man, that's just a lot. I don't know. I'm not really sure. The guy at AutoZone told me that code could be this. And if you're skeptical and you really don't think that that's an accurate estimate, we get people that call us all the time. Their cars are somewhere else and they want to know how much a starter is, or they want to give us that rundown. But you're calling another place and we've already diagnosed everything. A lot of times you may run into places, oh, sure, yeah, we'll give you an estimate, blah, blah, blah. And then they give you that estimate. And sometimes there could be like a huge, significant difference in that estimate. Well, my suggestion to you would be this, is a lot of places, and some are like this, some are not. They might want to give you a really inexpensive estimate because they might get the feeling that they know, or you tell them that, hey, my car is over here and they're telling me this. And okay, so I've had that conversation with customers a lot over my career. And, at that point, I'm going to say, well, it could be a couple of different things. We really need to check out your check engine light before we do anything. But I can give you a courtesy estimate if you'd like. I know there's differences in markets and differences in part brands and differences, and we're going to put the best part on your vehicle that we think is necessary to repair your vehicle so that you don't come back for that same scenario. We will also put on warranted parts for 2 years or 24,000 miles, whichever occurs first, or if that particular part, and let's just use the mass airflow sensor. I'm going to use one mass airflow sensor that's an aftermarket part, which isn't an OE part, that I know I haven't had any issues with. It's a brand that is either OE specific, like there's brands that'll go into your GM car that I can get from Delphi, and Delphi makes that for GM, and that's the part that actually goes on your car, and that's the actual part I'd get from the dealership. But maybe the dealership or an AC Delco supplier is going to be more expensive than the Delphi one to me. And, so there's differences in parts, and you have to kind of ask some questions. So if there's a huge discrepancy about what that estimate is, oh my gosh, it's $500 difference. What's going on? And that could be a question that you could call back to me and say, hey, what's going on with this? You're telling me it's this. Well, we've got diagnosis time involved in your vehicle. And you knew that up front when we told you, when you signed that paper, when you signed the repair order, when you dropped your car off, we told you it was going to be this much to diagnose it. So there's that time as well, because, I have to pay my technicians. I have to pay for the equipment that we use. I have, so there's a charge for that. So if you just told me, no, I don't want to fix anything right now, I got to figure my finances out, I'm going to pick my car up. It's this much to pick your car up. Okay, like we discussed when you dropped it off. So now you've called around to a couple of different places. There's a huge discrepancy. You call me back, and I try to explain it to you, but I don't know what they've told you. Maybe they're using a remanufactured mass airflow sensor that I would never use because it's cheap, and we've replaced them, and they're bad out of the box. And it's a known company that, to us in the repair industry, that we're not going to use a remanufactured mass airflow sensor, because the percentage of times that we put in a remanufactured mass airflow sensor and it fails is greater than the fact that we don't want you to come back. So we have to, number one, guarantee our work. Number two, guarantee that part to you. And number three, provide a service to you so that you're not coming back to see us again for the same problem. And if you do, it's all on us. Hey, Matt, my car won't start. It's stalled. It's kind of doing the same thing. That check engine light come on. I don't feel comfortable. You know what? We're going to send a tow truck out, get your vehicle, get it towed here, and we'll get it figured out. And then you call later, or I'll call you and say, hey, we got to the bottom of what's going on with your car. It ended up being that mass airflow sensor that we installed 6 months ago decides to fail for whatever reason. I apologize for the problem. That part is under warranty. We took care of the labor. We'll take care of the tow because you couldn't drive it because it was freaking out and it didn't want to start. And that happens with Ford vehicles, and it happens with GM vehicles as well. But we take care of it. So there's a little bit of security in the fact that how we run our business and the value that we put into our estimate to ensure that you're taken care of if there's a problem. Is this other shop going to tow your car and pay the tow bill, pay the labor, and pay for the part again if it fails? So there's that stuff too that you have to ask. Well, they're giving me this kind of estimate. Well, does that carry any kind of warranty? Everybody just jumps to the conclusion that, wow, this is $500 less than, and that's a huge discrepancy. Let's just say it's a couple $100. So if it's a couple $100 less, phone call back to me. It's like, hey man, what's going on? I got this other estimate from over here, and I can't speak intelligently about the estimate that they gave you. I can speak intelligently about what we're giving you. And again, people, it's always up to you if you want to move forward with it or not. If you are a valued customer and you are a good customer of ours, you know how our process is, and you know how we work. And that's just one of the benefits of being a customer of ours is that you get taken care of if there's a problem on down the road. And again, and we have people say, hey, no, I don't want it fixed. Go ahead, and I'm just going to go ahead and pick it up. And there's no animosity for us. It's it's okay. Well, let us know if you need us. And I've been there too. I've been there too, people. If you're like, oh my gosh, this was so much more here. And I understand that, a couple $100 is a lot. So we take that seriously too. And it's just like, if we can cut the cost down for you, we try to do that if we can. And there's some instances where we can, and there's some instances where we can't. It's just the nature of the beast. But it's just like these people they're too quick to think that we're taking advantage. And sometimes that may be true with a repair facility that you don't really know. And again, go back to my other episode last month, and I talk about this a little bit. It's like, gee whiz, have we been doing business with this person for a little while? Did Aunt Jenny say, these guys are wonderful, they took good care of me, they did my brakes, and then somebody backed into my car, and then the bumper's hanging off. They tied it up for me so that I could get to the body shop. I didn't know where to go. I was new in town. The guys just did my brakes. We had a customer like that the other day. We did her brakes on her Toyota. She left. She was so happy with us, and she come back, and she brought us cookies the next day. She's new to town. We told her, some other places in conversation to help her become a local. And then she has this unfortunate situation come up where somebody backed into the front of her car, and the bumper was literally hanging off of it. So she drives in, and we took the time to tie it up and talk to her and give her recommendations on body shops in the area. And she come back the next day with a thank you card and a $40 gift card to Domino's. Hey, buy your guys pizza. I really appreciate that. So is that kind of service? Is that the kind of service you're getting from your repair facility? So that's just the right thing to do. And we try to be very transparent with whatever is going on with your car and what estimate is what. And if you don't feel that it's necessary for you, you at least have an accurate picture of what's going on. Because I always tell my staff and anybody I've ever worked with in the auto repair industry is that we don't reserve the right not to tell you there's something going on with your car. It's up to you whether you want to fix it or not. And I don't want to sit here and say that we're the greatest thing ever, because we've had our share of 1-star reviews. We do make mistakes. But I want to make sure that you guys are aware that an estimate that's given to you isn't set in stone. You can walk away. There's no problem with walking away and taking it to another repair facility and having a second opinion. You rather spend 2 diagnostic charges to get told the same thing and be within $100 of each other, the estimate wise. Oh, well, maybe this one place was telling me the right thing. And maybe these guys are too. I get so many times I get told that, oh yeah, you guys are taking advantage, or, oh, we get this bad rap. And not at our place. I tell you that. And it's just, that frustrates me, because our industry is looked down upon, has been looked down upon for so many years, as far as, the bad eggs out there make us look bad. And unfortunately, we have to dig ourselves out of that hole. And we try to do the best we can with giving you this estimate and being up front and telling you this stuff. And it's just like, I hear it all the time about, oh, they're trying to take advantage, or, I read, I'm on social media. I read this stuff daily about, this, that, and the other. And it's just, sometimes it's really frustrating to me that happens to people. So I'm trying to tell you this kind of stuff and help you so that you're a better customer and we're better repair facilities. If it's something where, and again, we're in a state that requires us to provide written estimates, parts and labor, so that exactly to the penny, people, how much you're spending when you bring your car in. And if this episode has helped you in any way, I'm thankful. You know, if it helps you get a second opinion, by all means, go ahead and do that. It's something that I really think everyone needs to know is we're trying to tell you exactly what's going on with your car so you have an accurate picture. We had a customer last week, brings in an old 2007 Ford Fusion. Had a lot of stuff going on. By the time the estimate got all worked out for the steering concern and the power steering leak and the other issues it had, I mean, it ended up being like $3,500 estimate that we were giving this person. And up front, at the end of that conversation I had with the customer, I was just like, I'm not really sure, but I kind of think that this is exceeding the value of the car, and I really don't, you know, if it's something you want to address, we can certainly address it if it's that. But I think if it's something that, you know, maybe that $3,500 would be better put towards a replacement vehicle that doesn't have all these issues. And she kind of agreed, and she paid our diagnostic fee and was very happy that we were able to get her an accurate picture of what's going on with the car so that she could make an accurate decision on keeping it. And she said, yeah, I know it's kind of an old car and we were trying to keep it going. And, you know, do you think it's going to last? You know, that's a good one. That might be a whole different episode right there. Do you think it's going to last? Well, and in this particular case, you know, I just told her, I said, well, you're just going to have to keep topping off the power steering fluid because it's leaking pretty good. So I would recommend doing that weekly if you're going to keep this car. Oh no, we're only going to keep it for another month or so. Okay, well, at least check it once a week to see what's going on, top the fluid off. You know, it's going to leak and make puddles and stuff like that. But, you know, she was appreciative of that. And I was just like, well, okay, it's not feasible for you. If it has to be, it's my only car, I got to fix it, you know, then, and that if that's too much, then, you know, again, take it somewhere else. Take it somewhere and have a second opinion done by all means. No hard feelings. So hopefully in the last 40 minutes or so, you've gotten the idea about how we do our estimates and how you can give us, when you come in, give us all that information. That helps out so much. That helps out a ton. And then we'll give you all the information that we come up with. And don't get offended if we run across something else. It's like, that seems like that's our duty. I would think you'd be more upset with us if we didn't tell you it needed brakes. And then 2 weeks from then you go, oh, well, how come you guys didn't see that it needed brakes? I would have fixed that when it was here. Now you're more upset with us because we didn't see anything. We missed something. What else did you guys miss? Hey, I had that conversation too. I've had that conversation too. So it's really important to be upfront with us. We'll be upfront with you. And if you want a second opinion, by all means, go ahead and get it. And then decide if it's worth it for you to move forward with your estimate. And again, I hope this has helped you make a better decision for your repair facility or for your vehicle and for your travels. All right, that's going to do it for another episode of the All Automotive Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Clausen. And do you have a smart speaker at home? Is it an Amazon Echo? Just say, Alexa, play All Automotive with Matt Clausen.
Getting All Automotive with Matt Clausen from Amazon Music. Resuming Season 2, Episode 7, Top 10 Vehicles of 2023 according to Consumer Reports.
It's that easy. That's all you've got to do. Give us a like, give us a follow. It all helps. It lets us let you know when there's a new episode. Once again, Matt Clausen saying, hey, keep that greasy side down.